Right, well, good evening, everybody. So nice to see some familiar faces in the chat. Thanks very much, everybody, for logging on. This is going to be a cracking night. I've done a lot of research on Glyn, so much so that I spent 90 minutes just getting to the very first post he ever put on Facebook, which I will show you. Yeah, from bodybuilding to where we are now. Probably need to give a trigger warning out because there are some budgie smugglers that will be coming on. Coming on. I could see Glyn in the green room has just grimaced at that. But before we get cracking, just need to go through a few things as I do every week. So, of course, this is Flux Review TV. It's actually based all around the Flux magazine and Flux exhibition. So this is the latest edition of that, a couple of hundred pages. It's a fantastic art magazine that Lisa Gray puts together. And then, of course, in the summer, we'll be coming the Flux exhibition. That will be in Marylebone in the summer, and we will be putting some more details out about that. And two other things just to tell you before we get going is that our very own Katerina Diaz is currently from this weekend, or just this weekend, I should say, at the Fresh Art exhibition in Alexandra Palace. So if you've got time to go there, you can get tickets on Eventbrite. And then there is one more thing, actually, which is this is Michelle Watson's work. You might remember her from one of my earlier interviews. She is having a solo exhibition in London, 13th of March to the 6th of April at the Museum Gallery, and it's called Hues of Change. But she is an amazing artist and seriously worth going along to have a look at her work. Right, I don't ever make any notes. I don't have a running order. I just like this chat to be as it is. But Glyn's been my mentor, actually, right from the start. And to do him justice, I thought, actually, I would put something together to introduce him because so many people know him. So many people are aware of just how good he is. But what we want to do is, or I want to do, is just get right back to where it all started and really see where he's been, what he's doing now, and where he's heading. So for those people that don't know him, and there will be certainly a few, he's a photographer, creator, educator, and best-selling author, working both nationally and internationally. His work has seen him shooting promotional and commercial material for industry professionals, physique athletes, musicians, bands, and actors. Initially becoming known in the industry because of his retouching and post-production skills, Glyn is lately known for his 35 to 45 fine art portraits. Although, interestingly enough, having chatted with him, I don't think he sees those as being fine art, but they are. He has worked with his iPhone, which we'll talk about as well, and also drone seascape. So we're going to talk about quite a bit about that kind of stuff. But he's a massive advocate of personal projects. But photography was not always his main thing. At the age of 18, he entered his first ever bodybuilding competition, hence the trigger warning for the budgie smugglers. So we're going to find out where it all changed for him and what bodybuilding taught him that has stayed with him, not only in life, but transferred into the way he approaches his art and photography. And as usual, I have created a video of his work. And then once we've gone through that, we'll bring the man in. So very interesting. Always that last little bit gets cut off. However, let's bring Glyn in. I've had his microphone muted just in case he was laughing his head off in that bit. But here we go. Hello, Glyn.
Hello, mate. That was lovely seeing that. It really was. I mean, I know you asked me to send those images over, but it was just so different seeing them when there's music as well, you know?
Yeah, it's I'm going to swap sides with you because otherwise I won't be in the right place, and neither will you. Yeah, it's very interesting, and it is interesting also looking back through what you have posted on Facebook, where you kind of started, and I have alluded to a few things which we will get to, but there was something that I know you are and have been for years a big Arnold Schwarzenegger fan. And I know that kind of I don't know if you've ever watched the documentary on Netflix. I'm sure you have. Yeah, of course. And also I've listened to the podcast. But what I found quite interesting, Arnie, one of his things was you will never get anywhere in life if you spend your life with your hands in your pockets. And then looking back through stuff that I found on you, I found this that you had written. If you want something, and I mean really want something, then it takes dedication, determination, focus, discipline, hard work, lots of hard work, and consistency. Now, that is unbelievably true. And I would say you're potentially the hardest working person I know in terms of all the stuff you do, the YouTube, all your different channels. You're out all the time photographing, but you don't just do that for you. You do that for all the people that follow you. You do that for Steve Healy, for instance, who's in the chat. You'll go off with him down to the beach at the seafront, take some stuff. So what is it? What is it? If you were to go back in time, and let's do that. How did you start? What was it that made you think, I need to pick a camera up, I need to start doing this?
The camera was something that came later. It was never something that wasn't the first thing. I was never really interested in photography. I mean, I think probably like most people, I had a digital camera when I was younger. In fact, I had the old reel camera, 24 exposures that I'd take to boots and get processed in an hour. And if I was lucky, maybe a couple of them would have come out okay. But it was never something that I was really that interested in. But it was the Photoshop side of things that was my first attraction to any of this kind of world. I mean, there's, a few people who know me quite close will know the story about it. Is that the fact that I've got two uncles in particular that have had a big impact on me. And one of them is my Uncle Dave, who's always been the family photographer. And I remember the one time I'd already moved away from home. I was visiting my mother at the time, and I'd go into the house, and there he is at the kitchen table, which was always the communal part of her house. And he'd had his laptop there, and he knew that I always liked gadgets and things like that. And he said, "Here, Glyn, come and take a look at this." And he was showing me one of his pictures on the laptop. And he said, "Check this out. I can get rid of red eye." And he showed me how to get rid of red eye. And it was this, I was like, flipping heck, how on earth do you do that? And he said, "Oh, it's this software here called Photoshop." And he showed me a few things with it. And I was like, man, I don't know. And I don't know why, but just seeing it just that once, something just went, oh, I like this. And I can't explain it. I really can't explain it. But from seeing it from my Uncle Dave showing me this software, I just felt like I wanted to know more about that software. And that was it. So I got hold of a copy. As most people did.
Oh, really?
The day. Oh, yeah. I mean, listen,
how very dare you?
They know that. So I got hold of a copy back then, and I just literally just started to learn as much as I could. Wherever I could find information about this software, I was just absorbing it. Book. I remember I think one of the first people I ever learned anything about retouching one. There's a couple of people actually. There was Deke McClelland, Ben Wilmore. And a few others. There was some companies as well that I found, and then eventually I found this company called the NAPP. But
oh yeah,
things happened very quickly, Gary. And in one way I'm blessed that they did, but in another way I was cursed that they did, because things happened very, very quickly. And before I knew it, I was doing stuff, having fun, producing stuff for friends. then I kind of got picked up by people. I started doing work for people, getting paid, and I was like, oh my God, now I'm getting paid here. What if somebody grasses on me to the tax man? So I register as a business. So then that's it. I've now got a business. Oh God, I don't even know what I am yet. And I was having to find myself, if you like, and do stuff. And it kind of went from there. But the retouching was the first thing, and I just seemed to be very. It just seemed to sort of get into my system. I just learned it. I could work things out. I liked the technicalities of it. Thinking, well, how would I do that? It just came naturally to me, and it progressed very quickly. Adobe kind of picked up on it. And before you know it, I was invited to an event in London where they were doing a week's filming with Adobe. There just happened to be some people there. There was a guy off the Blue Planet who'd filmed with, that program there. There was a lady called Erin Maroney who was she had an agency, and I ended up doing work with that agency. So I ended up doing work for the BBC and Sky and stuff over in the States for some sort of like drama series. And then eventually thought, you know what? I mean, I remember there was one program called Most Haunted, Yvette Fielding, and that I was asked to do.
Still on.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's still on.
They're not ghosts; it's lens flares.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a different story. But I was asked to do a picture of work on her, and what they'd done is on this particular series that they had going out, they'd done the photo shoot, but they'd given her a blonde wig to wear. And the wig wasn't quite right. So there was nobody there to cut it. So just somebody who was on set was given a pair of scissors and snipped the wig. And it was all over the place. So part of my job was to make her hair look good and put a ghost in the doorway and stuff like that. And I was kind of thinking, you know what? There's got to be more to life than this. So then I just wanted to pick up the camera, and it kind of went from there, really.
That's interesting. But what were you doing before all of this? What was your job?
Before I kind of got into the photography, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not being any way evasive or whatever here. There is only so much I can talk about when it comes to that. Yeah. Because of the kind of work that it was. Okay. But needless to say, it did involve me traveling. I used to do a lot of work abroad in Indonesia and the Philippines. I did end up carrying guns. And you mentioned Arnold Schwarzenegger. I did actually spend the day with Arnold Schwarzenegger looking after him. So it's kind of, there's a lot of stuff that I've done in the past. I moved away from home when I was very, very young, went to London. I actually joined the police cadets. They had police cadet system at Hendon. But yeah, I kind of ended up moving on and doing all kinds of different things that involved traveling and
Right, so you obviously look good in a nice DJ then, and carrying your gun.
I don't know about DJs.
I haven't seen, I've never seen you as Daniel Craig, but
no. Believe me, I'm not giving that spin on it. But it was
I'm joking.
It was very interesting work. But in the sort of latter period of it, it was definitely work that I used to travel to Indonesia, and one of the things I used to teach out there is you teach like the military and the police and stuff like that, teaching on body language, because one of the things I was a specialist in was body language. So I'd be able to teach people how to read behaviors on people that maybe they needed to find somebody, and they could there's all sorts of reasons why you'd need to learn body language, but then there was the firearms, the self-defense stuff, and all that kind of stuff as well. So
proper interesting. So, all right, you've done all that. You've picked your camera up, and you've gone, right, I've got a business now. Now, we've chatted about this before. People will never know how flipping hard you have to work when you have got your own business. Interesting listening to your guest a couple of nights ago, who kind of went down the money route first.
That was amazing.
That was an interesting interview. But if you're trying to generate income, you're trying to, this is okay, I love this so much, this is going to be my career. And as all the artists that are actually watching are all going to say, how on earth do you make money out of art? Because a lot of people don't, and always have another job or something. But you've gone, I think back when I first met you, and I can I can show exactly when that was because that was here. This was my very first tutorial in Bista
Mm,
with my daughter, actually, who had found you online. And it was Dave Clayton that took this picture. But you had about 5,000 followers then.
mm,
And now, now we're talking, well, on YouTube alone, nearly 300,000, very close to being 300,000. That's
mm.
insane. So, and what's that? That was 2012. So that's, 13 years ish.
Yeah, I'm a slow burner.
Yeah, no, but it also shows you how hard you've had to work to get to that point. And also, look, we all know how good you are. I know we none of us are. We're all a little bit funny about compliments. We are, and you know, uh, people say to you, "Oh, Glyn, you're amazing." You are. You are truly amazing. And I think for me, without blowing smoke up your body, is you are such a nice man as well. You will help anybody if they need help. You'll absolutely will help them, and I
Mhm,
think that says a lot about your work ethic. So one of the things in my intro was about the work side of it
mm.
is the bodybuilding has taken you the amount of work and effort you have to put in
Yeah,
to get your body to go from. See, now you sent me these pictures,
I did.
but I found this one.
Oh, there you go. You have done
Now,
some looking.
now, now, the interesting thing is there's a caption with this that said you had had 15 Big Macs
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
before this competition.
No, no, no. It was actually because I won my. It was the first competition I ever entered, and I won.
Mm.
And oh man, I was so excited. And then the next day, because I was so hungry, I was actually the competition was actually up in Lichfield, where my hometown was, and the local McDonald's had a deal on. If you parked in the car park
I
in near,
said 2 for 1 or something, wasn't it?
yeah, it was in Woolworths. It was your car park ticket on the back said 2 for 1 at McDonald's. So I took my brother down there and had, I think, like 6 or 7. And then I came back later in the day and took my sister down, had another 6 or 7, and yeah. But then in the evening, oh my god, I was
Yeah,
so bad because my
yeah,
body had taken all this salt on board, and I just literally, well, I was drowning from the inside out. I was bloated, my
yeah,
joints, I couldn't even get my shoes on. My feet had
yeah.
swollen up. It was horrendous, but I
So,
won. So.
well, yeah, I mean, and that, but it's the dedication and the all of that work.
Mm,
Feel it seems anyway that has transferred through to what you do now. Because when you are the type of person that works so damn hard to get that,
mm,
you're now doing exactly the same. You don't stop, which is a good thing in some respects. All right, you do. You have your little weekend breaks. You away with Anne, I know that, but you'll know exactly what I mean. I mean, this is probably where a lot of people know you from as well. I've got that book that's sitting on the table. I'm still waiting for you to sign it about 10 years later. But uh, yeah, people know you as well from this. You do all the Adobe stuff, and also, sometimes especially when you are looking back through all your Facebook posts, you do see you do see pictures that you think, why did I post that?
I'm just trying to think. Oh, I remember that was. I remember where that was actually. Yeah, and that was. Yeah, what a muppet. Sometimes you look back through your Facebook page and think, why did I post that? But oh
Right.
well. Do you know what? Who cares? I'm
Yeah,
an open. I'm
whatever.
an open book, Gary. I'm an
Yeah,
open book.
whatever. So, yes, your very first picture you ever posted took me 90 minutes to go all the
Oh
way
wow,
back to get
Vince.
this,
Yeah,
and that
that's
was this
Vince.
one.
Yeah,
So
Vince.
this is the picture that you very first posted. Now, we've kind of had a bit of a conversation in the week about whether your work is fine art or not. My view is it absolutely is, and which sort of leads on to some of your early stuff
Mm,
like this. And there's definitely a theme which links back to your bodybuilding,
hmm
but your
Amazing.
Photoshop skills are hugely in evident, even early, because this is quite early on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, your Photoshop skills are really in evident. But why I say about fine art is because you're actually, well, in actual fact, I think I've got a caption. Yeah, I've got a caption because I was going to talk about this. So, because a lot of people say, you know, what is fine art?
Mm,
Let's just do that for a minute. And so I've got this that comes up. So fine art photography is a style of photography created by an artist, and I think that's exactly what you are. It is the intentional use of photography as your artistic medium of choice, true, and used to further your conceptual idea. And so that's why I think that's why you sit where you do
mm,
in terms of, you know, your work is your artistic impression of that photograph.
right.
And so that means for me that you sit, you know, you come up with this idea. You're not someone who just walks out, picks a camera up, takes a picture, thanks very much, job done. That's not it at all. So here's another earlier
I
example.
do struggle. I struggle with the word art. I just do. And
I know, yeah, but I can understand why, and I can understand why really clearly. And one of the reasons is because photography has taken so long to be regarded as art. It's,
I,
you know, I
but
was entering exhibitions where they would kick me out because they said, well, it's not art.
I don't know if that's the reason though, Gary. I really don't. I don't know if because I think maybe it just arcs back to the bodybuilding days. Maybe it even goes further back than that. But it, if I take the bodybuilding as an example, I always had the attitude. I was always taught to have the attitude that there's always somebody bigger, always somebody stronger. If you're the biggest guy in the gym, you need to move to another gym. All those kind of things. So that's just the way my mentality has always
Right.
been, and I've always my attitude as well when it comes to the bodybuilding, the photography, the Photoshop, whatever. As it's always right. What's next? What's my next thing? Because that's done now. Move on. And I'm kind of I've never settled. I'm never 100% happy with
No, well,
my
no,
stuff.
no, no,
I like what I do, but I'm kind of like, yeah, but I can do better. I can
no,
do
yeah,
better.
but that's every artist, Glyn. That every single artist I've interviewed. You're number 27. This is my 27th interview, and every single one of them has said exactly that. That no one is, when none of us as artists are happy with what we've done, because there'll always be something that you think, oh, could have changed that, could I have done this.
But
They all think that.
but that's not a negative either, is it?
No,
For me, I
no.
found it's kept me very grounded in every
Mm,
aspect of what I
mm.
do, regardless of it being photography, Photoshop, any aspect of my life. I've always been very, very grounded, I feel, and always felt that I can do better. Do you know what I mean? So many people, yeah, you have to look at, I mean, some of the people in the industry, without naming names, I always find that there's so many people that tend to, that's a very sweeping statement, but you know what I mean? There's a lot of people that ride on previous success,
Yeah,
whereas
yeah,
I
yeah,
only think,
yeah,
for
yeah,
me, you know, I'm only as good as my last job.
yeah.
Now,
And
it doesn't
that,
matter
but
how
that's,
good the stuff was
yeah,
I did, you
yeah,
know, a few years ago. If I do something tomorrow, I go on stage tomorrow and I bomb, I need to, wow. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
I can't say, yeah, but before I was really good because it's what I've just done that's the most important thing. So I need to move on from there.
But there are people that do say that.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
I used to be is such a
Yeah. Oh,
used
yeah. I
name.
could have been.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
could have
Yeah.
been, yeah,
Yeah.
I should have been, all of that. And you know, look, we can all say that, but I think what often defines it for me, and this comes up a lot with these talks that I do, is would you recognize that as being your style? So anybody that's listening in the chat, if you agree with me, when you look at something like this, when you look at something like this,
God, I remember that job. That was a paid job, that one before. Yeah.
that was, I
Jesus.
know it's pantomime, wasn't it?
God, yeah, that was hard.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that too. Because I'll tell you why I remember it. One of your tutorials showed you how to do the curtains at the
That's
back.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the dodging and burning.
That's it. Yeah.
um, But if you remember, looking at this and looking at this, you would instantly look at these, I feel, and let's see if people agree with me. You would instantly look at these and know this is Glyn Dewis has done this. I believe. Now, that's what art is in some respects, is that you have to have a style. You've got to have the thing that
Absolutely.
people go,
Yeah.
that is you. You've got that. The difference perhaps is you're not actually going, right, I'm having an exhibition, I'm going to sell all these prints or these pictures for a shed load of money. But that's the only difference in that sense. And also it's quite interesting to me, bearing in mind a lot of people that I've spoken to on here are landscape. Let's see if anybody's actually dropped. Yeah, see, look, very recognizable from that's not coming up. Yes, it is.
Oh, Steve, yeah.
Very recognizable from Steve, 100%. Lee. See, that's what I mean. I think it's really interesting how, especially this. I mean, this picture in particular. Think back to the old masters. This is the sort of things they did that people bought and put on their wall. It's no different now. People do buy this kind of work to put on their wall. But then you said to me, this, well, it was just a snap with my phone. This one was the one in particular, right? But if that was printed up and put on the wall in an exhibition, that's sold.
Actually, yeah. But that's a world that I'm. That's a world that I'm not familiar with. You know,
right? And it's a world that I wasn't familiar with at all. It's a world that I thought, oh dear, what am I doing? What am I doing in this? Very first Flux exhibition I did.
That was my iPhone. That picture there as well. That's probably about the iPhone 8 or something. That is.
Yeah, but the point is, what I'm trying to sort of explain a bit here. Let's bring us up sideways. It's the artistic nature of the picture. That's not just, oh, look how you've framed it. Look where you've got the web. Look what you've done with the way that the background works with it. It's all leading you into the picture. There are a lot of people who are photographers that would take a picture like this and probably would go, oh no, that's not art. And that's generally because you need to be almost in that world to get it. If it's a weird thing, though, it's a very weird thing. You have to have a very thick skin, because people do go, ooh, or the worst thing that happens to me, which I really get frustrated with, is when people walk past, don't even look. You want to run after them, grab hold of them, bring them back, and go, "What? Why didn't you look at my bit of work?" And look, let's jump onto this one. This is so good, and I
love doing that. I really did. I love those ones.
You've got a whole series with the giraffes and everything else. This was such a good series. But again, if that was printed up, framed up, without question, it's gone, it's sold. Because I know from the exhibitions I do the kind of work that does sell, and this would be one of them. So it's interesting how you don't see yourself like that. I certainly didn't when I started, because I thought, oh, this is, I'm a steampunk. I'm in the steampunk world here. What the hell am I doing in the art world? And yeah, as Lee, again, as Lee Churchill said here, it's the way you view and portray the scene and capture it. That's what makes you an artist. You are different. You're different to a photographer in that sense. Yeah. So, well, this is exactly what Leah said here. How can that not be art when you've picked out the aspects you wanted in the photo, which is true. So when I started doing what I'm doing after going to your tutorial, and for about 4 or 5 after that, to be fair, my wife said to me, well, it's not a photograph now, is it? I went, all right, that's interesting. Sure, it's not. That's not a photograph. You haven't taken that picture. You've put loads of pictures together. It's not a photograph. And I went,
and
yeah. But then, so this, I think, we spoke about this as well. This one,
All right.
without doubt, fine art, beautiful, absolute stunning picture. Get that printed on metal. Get that printed on metal. Get it on the wall. It's a fabulous picture. Everything that you need in a picture is sitting in that. And it's that. What was this taken with? Was it taken with your iPhone as well, or
Yeah.
was it? Yeah, yeah, but it's not.
I
Doesn't
love
matter
it.
what the
It's
medium
like, I'm
is, does
laughing
it?
because it's kind of like, yeah, it was my iPhone. You know, it's just
Yeah, but it doesn't matter what the medium. Well, it doesn't matter what you use to take
yeah,
the
yeah.
picture. I use my iPhone because sometimes because I haven't got, I don't carry my other phone camera around with me all the time, and it's great because all right, as long as you keep it on the standard setting, you do get the 42 megapixel, but you can now shoot in RAW, so you can bring it in and change it. But this, I mean, look, there's an artist doing this sort of work with photography. If people were mind to have a look, they'd find her on Facebook somewhere. But yeah, and she sells them for a lot of money. So you can't. I think you've got to be a bit more maybe open-minded about the fact that yes, this is art. Let's jump onto these ones. See, again, it's not just a matter of composition. I'm assuming you've used. Have you? This is iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Have you used the live setting and then done the long exposure?
I think this was taken with a long exposure app that allows you to do.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe something like even longer or re-expose. I used that there.
Yeah, but you've got to also. I think you're in a position where it's you that is choosing how this is going to look. You've got some that are black and white, which are seriously dramatic. But there are people that are exhibiting stuff like this that, dare I say, is not as good, and they are exhibiting them in big exhibitions. I'm going to be, freshes on this weekend at Alexandra Palace. There will be some, guarantee it. And I think it's. I'll be very surprised if this was in an exhibition, if someone turned around and said that's not art. It is. It's because I'll tell you why. It's the emotion that you're creating when you do this image, and it's quite. It's very clever. I think it's very clever.
The signature seagull in the picture as well, which wasn't there, but I've added that in because it's just like a little thing that I have.
So I put ravens in mine. Now, interestingly enough, so I'm going around doing these camera club talks, and I always say there's going to be better photographers in this room than me. I'm an artist with a camera. That's my tool. I'm not a photographer. I take bits, then build the image. Always put a raven in. So someone's gone, well, you must be a wildlife photographer then, if you're taking ravens and putting them in your pictures. And I said, no, I stick a polarized lens on the front, filter on the front of my camera, and I go to the museum in Cambridge and photograph all the stuffed birds they got in the cases, and I use them. Why do I want to spend hours waiting for the right bird to come across when they're there already?
That'd be good, like that.
But it's true because at least then you have taken the picture. It's not a stock photo or anything like that, which is how I feel with it. So that's it's interesting how you've again taking that as an example. The seagull wasn't there, and you've put that in. It's that's what I'm talking about. That's what makes you an artist. You've got a little signature like that that you drop in. This is a cracker as well.
God, that was, I can remember doing that. That was so fluky. That was because that was from a road trip that my friends Anthony and Brian Dukes, we all three of us went on a North Wales road trip over a 3-day period. And on the way back, we just pop there on the and literally it's just amazing conditions. The water was like glass, and there was this beautiful mist coming over. Oh my God, it was just, wonderful.
Yeah. But see, one of the things I can't do as easily is spot a photograph. It's because my brain is trained to putting it all together. I can't walk by and go, oh, yeah, I struggle with that.
I'm always looking though, Gary, always looking. It's never away from me. Do you know what I mean? And it can be annoying, but it's also, it can be really fortuitous. It really can, because like, you know, a couple of weeks back, popped down to the sea just to clear my head. I've got a lot of things going on. And I was just purely by fluke, the best sunset I've seen in ages. And I managed to grab a picture of it. And it was just like, I love it. I'm really happy with that. But I'm not, I mean, I really enjoy doing these pictures. I always say that I'm a portrait photographer. You know, my real thing, the thing that really grips me is, and the thing that really stirs me, do you know what I mean? And the thing I've shed so many bloody tears over and stuff like that because of the emotional roller coaster with it. Portraits in particular, the veterans. I feel like I don't care how corny it sounds. I feel like the reason that my creative life took the kind of direction it did, and I ended up picking up the camera, I genuinely believe that was because I was meant to do that veterans portrait first project. I honestly genuinely believe I was meant to do that. That's how strongly I feel about it, and how it just seemed to work. Do you know what I mean? It was just the best thing. And I'm, you know, doing that project. I don't think I'll ever top that. I don't think I could possibly top the feeling I got from that. But with all these other things here, you know, I am a portrait photographer, is how I perceive myself. But I love going out and taking these seascapes and stuff. That's stuff that I only started doing those out of necessity. And, you know, I don't know if we talked, but during the COVID times, I couldn't go out and I couldn't take portraits. And I am one of these people, Gary, that I have to be doing something. I get really restless, and if I hate staying in. Me and Steve were talking about this the other day. If I have to stay in during the day, I get so incredibly restless. I'll just pop out, even if it's for 10 minutes, just to go by the sea. Right, I've been out, then I can come home. I've got to get out. So getting out and doing these seascapes, the first ones I did, they were just terrible. They were so bad, but it didn't matter, because during COVID, I was out. You know what I mean? I enjoyed it. And I've just made it a bit of a mission of mine to get better and better at doing this kind of stuff. And I just enjoy it. And I remember the one time I did this picture in this woodland, and I got this picture of the bottom of this tree and what have you. And there's a story as to how I got that and what happened. But I remember getting a message off somebody in the States that said the reason I got that picture and the reason I was happy with it is like my first ever environmental outside picture that wasn't a portrait. The reason he said it worked was because you treated being out like you treat being taking a portrait. You know, you took your time, you immersed yourself in where you were. You got to know the location like you get to know the person. And then things just started to appear. And it's generally, it's true. It sounds really bizarre, but it genuinely is true. And from that moment onwards, when I was out and about, because I wasn't treating it, I was kind of treating it like a portrait, but not. And what I mean by that is, when I go to take a portrait, I know that I will return with a portrait. But what I quickly learned when I was going out to take pictures of, you know, woodland, seascapes, whatever, it wasn't guaranteed I'd come back with a picture, because a big part of it is the conditions, the lighting conditions. And if they don't work, you haven't got a picture. So that side of things I wasn't treating as a portrait. So the combination of me going out there and kind of immersing myself, getting to know the location, what have you, just kind of, then I started to just see things. I was seeing patterns in the way the trees were, and seeing light, and I was looking up and looking down, stuff I'd never had to do before, because ordinarily I'd just look straight ahead at the subject. But now looking up, looking down, and it's a whole new world, and I absolutely love it. Probably, I'll any opportunity I get to go out to take pictures of the sea, and I'll do it. I love it. I just love it.
And there's not many people that can say that they do a job they absolutely love. There's not many people that can say that. I mean, you know, my day job, I love it. I'm only doing 2 days a week now, but I love it, and have done for the last 20 years. And I never thought that I would sit where I do now with my artwork. And that it's interesting how I think, and it's a bit of a bizarre one, but had I not come to your tutorials, I wonder how long it would have been before I would have found it. That totally changed. I was belonged to a camera club, was doing all that, but that one trip to your tutorial changed what I was doing completely. And sometimes there's a few things I believe. You meet people in life because you're supposed to. How you react to them, good or bad, is testament to how you are as a person. But also, that changes. You suddenly find things, and it's quite interesting. I was talking to one of my guests a couple of weeks ago. She was in a band in in Australia, big time musician, really quite a decent sized band in Australia. Moved over here, went into art, and she lives down your way. Actually, she's a Devon artist, and she does some fabulous stuff. And it got us talking about. I had a band for 20 years. It's got us talking into how music and art sort of intertwine themselves quite a bit.
See that a lot.
But also, I think from the thing that I often say, and this is where your work stands out, is that you've got the imagination to come up with the idea, and you cannot teach people that. And it's interesting. Look, Lee's put, it shows Glyn's a talented bloke to be able to pick up any form of camera and produce quality images with it. Need to do a cheap camera challenge. And then
Cheers,
Jennifer's followed that up with 100% agree, Lee Church, you're extremely talented. And it is but it's something that, had you not sat with your uncle, had you not done that, had you not thought, whoa, I love this, I wonder where Glyn Dewis would be now.
Had I not had so many amazing people put their hand out to me, willing to help, I wouldn't be doing it now. There's no two ways. And there's so many people I could never thank them enough for the support they've given me. So and
sometimes but that can be said of you too. As I said earlier, you do support and help people, which is amazing.
But I've had good mentors, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and as I said right at the start of this, you've been mine. So look, we're going to talk about the 3945 because you've already mentioned it. So I've got a series of these coming up. So tell me what made you do this in the very first instance, because you've got some earlier on in your Facebook page with the guys in the beret, and you've done a bit of that. But
the home guard.
What was it? The home guard? Yeah, that's it. What drove you to go down this route with the veterans? Because these are stunning portraits and an absolute testament to the quality of not just you as a photographer, but your ability to capture what these pictures are saying. But what made you do it? What was the driving force? What started it all off?
Well, I've always had an interest in the history, World War II and what have you. And obviously there was the love of photography and Photoshop. So the two being married together was just, it was a match made in heaven. It really was. But the way it just evolved, because I wanted to take portraits that were just characters. I wanted to take pictures of characters. So that's why I ended up getting in touch with the local reenactment group, the Home Guard. The Oxfordshire Home Guard Living History Group is what they were called, or still are called. And I ended up photographing them, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Do you know what I mean? Because although they were dressed up and doing what they do, they were still them. The characters were there, and I was welcomed in. It was really good, and it was just almost like a light bulb moment that went on when I was doing that. And I was thinking, God, I've just so enjoyed doing this. I'd love to photograph veterans for real. I really would love to do that. And it just seemed like, God, that'd just be an amazing thing to do. And then I'm thinking, what can I, every sort of remembrance day that we have, every year, we say thank you for your service and thank you for what you've done. And we all, it never seemed enough. Buying a red poppy never seemed enough as a way of saying thank you. So for me, it kind of thought, well, how can I say thank you? What skills have I got? What can I do? And I thought, well, portrait. There's nothing more special than a portrait. of a family member. It's just massively important to have that. So I thought, well, why don't I do a timeless, what I would say is a timeless portrait of a veteran and give it to them to keep. I'd be completely self-funded. This is my way of saying thank you. And I am getting something from it, but it's just that the motivation was to do something that it made me feel good, that I was doing something in some way saying thank you and paying back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So that's what I wanted to, that was the reason I did it. I wanted to do it. But it just became so much more. I mean, even when you played that intro, seeing the pictures that I have seen so many times, these veterans, you know what I mean? I've seen them so many times. But when there was music there, even then I could feel myself wobbling a bit. Do you know what I mean? Because I remember these weren't just pictures of people; these were friends. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They're friends. I mean, I came so close to these people. It was way more than photography. Way more, absolutely way more. It was such an experience. I'll never ever forget it. It's just incredible.
But you see, going back to art, look, there's people that paint portraits. There's people that will put up a portrait of someone that nobody knows who they are, but it's a portrait, and someone will go, I love that. I think I love that on my wall. And what you've done here is, okay, it doesn't matter what your medium is, whether it's paint or photography, you've captured that person at that moment in time. And not only have you done that, you've immortalized them.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that moment in time that you've captured. And that's, for me anyway, I mean, all right, I might be talking a load of old nonsense, but that's what makes you an artist. You are absolutely an artist. It's such a clever thing that you managed to do.
I 100% take it as a compliment that you call these portraits art. I totally do. That's wonderful. But obviously, there's nothing else would be done with these portraits. They'd never be sold for me to make money.
That's not the point. You know, and I say this a lot. Look, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of artists out there who never show their work. In fact, so my father painted landscapes, oil paints, and they were superb, and a few people wanted to buy them, but he said that the minute somebody started putting a value on it, and he almost had to paint to order, it was, I don't want to do this anymore. That's not what I do it for.
Yeah.
And totally, and you this is which comes back to right at the start in the intro, when I said you're a massive fan and you push people to have personal projects, and this is yours without question. But I also feel that almost everything you do is a personal project, because it's your passion that goes into that. As you've already said, funny enough, with your iPhone photography, and you went out during COVID, and the first ones you took rubbish, but you would not have left it at that. And that's the difference between perhaps somebody that doesn't, some people give up too easily, but
it's a challenge. You've got, it's a challenge that's I've got to. I can't just listen. The worst thing I could have is just a regret. I could have. I wish I'd. No way. No way.
I've got to find that, because that's in my notes. You've said that. You posted that somewhere, and it's true. So I always say, do I want to be sitting in an old people's home looking out the window saying, oh God, why didn't I do that? Instead of, I'm glad I did everything I wanted to do. And that I think is the thing. You won't, because you don't sit still. You won't be that person. You'll be the person that sits there and goes, yep, I've had a great time. I've done everything I wanted to do, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
But the thing is, I mean, we're great mates, and you know me, but you say that, I know I never would. I know I'd never do that, because I think it's sometimes I laugh when people say, God, you're so busy, you're so busy. I mean, years ago, God, if only they knew what I was doing alongside building this. Do you know what I mean? Building this business, you think, my God, I'd be telling people, oh yeah, I'm going teaching in Indonesia. Oh really? What are you teaching? Oh, I'm teaching some people. I'd never say, I wasn't teaching this. I was out there doing a completely different bit of work, but I was still putting all the hours I could into building this. But even now, when people say, God, you're really busy, yeah, I do try to be constantly busy, because that's the nature of what my personality is. I can't sit still for too long. But I then go, but I could do more.
But it also,
I always have that. I could do more.
Yeah. And look, I'm the same. Sadly for them, both my kids are the same. My son still sits there at 3 o'clock, still working at 3 o'clock in the morning. On, you know, he's in business with me, building apps and all sorts of does. But if you're that type of person, you are that type of person, and that there's nothing you can do to stop that. But what you do is you harness it, and you really, and that's where I think. So to explain that a little bit more, when I'm putting something together I want to do, I think of the image, I see it all finish in my head. My next thought is, how the hell am I going to do that? And I love that problem solving from start to finish. I love that bit in the middle. The end result, yeah, okay, get it printed, sell it, whatever I do. But the bit in the middle is a bit I absolutely love. And experimenting, and I do find that, and I'm not afraid to say also, I'm looking up at it now, that I will go back sometimes to your book, because you said once, I was at a camera club talk you did, where you said, write down what you've done, because in 2 weeks' time you're going to forget it.
Oh yeah, keep notes and stuff. Yeah,
keep a notebook. You know, well, a lot of what I do is sitting there in your book, so I don't need to write anything down. I'll just go back and have a look quickly. But you know, that's the interesting thing for me. There's got a few more of these just like to talk about. So with the, you know,
Jack Ansell, what a lovely man he was.
Yeah, but you've captured. This is what I was trying to sort of get at, is that yes, this is a portrait, but you've set the lights up. You've decided how they're going to sit. You've worked out everything you need to create this portrait. Someone hasn't done that for you. If someone sets all the lights up for you and all you do is step in front of it and click your camera, that's not your picture. That's, you know, you haven't, it's the whole thing that matters. And I think this is what I get from these. I get the emotion. You know, you can see exactly what this lady's like from this picture that you've taken of her.
Very sweet lady.
Yeah, well, you can see that. It says that all over it, doesn't it? And that's the you know, same with this guy. You can tell he's
Harry Billinge.
Yeah, you can tell he's a bit of a character. But again, it's the fact that you've not gone, right, come and stand in front of my backdrop, stand there for a minute, let me take a few pictures, thanks very much, see you later. You haven't done that.
Photo shoot was about 5 minutes, mate. It was spending time talking to him more than anything.
Yeah,
that's what the whole exercise was, talking.
Yeah, but this is what I try to explain to people quite a bit, actually, when it comes to doing photo shoots, is sometimes you do get the picture that you want on the very first frame, but you take loads more because they've come along, etc. However, the chatting and talking you do to them puts them in the right frame of mind for that picture to be taken, and also it gets you to understand them, and therefore you bring a bit more out of it.
And there's examples of that. There's a guy that you showed earlier on, paratrooper John Sleep, and if I hadn't spent the time talking to him, I always used to leave all the kit in the car until we felt comfortable with each other, and you can kind of feel that's, you know, yeah, we're getting on now. There's a bit of laughter and you look relaxed. But if I hadn't listened to John Sleep, I don't know what would have happened if I'd have just carried on there regardless and taken a photograph of him as I had done with other veterans in the same way, you know, with a flash and stuff. That could have turned out very bad because he's suffering massive post-traumatic stress since the war. I mean, we're talking like,
wow,
you know, sort of 70, 75, nearly 80 years worth of PTSD. And as luck would have it, because I do video, you know, I'll always be doing a little bit of video, and I always carry a constant light with me. I ended up putting a constant light into the softbox instead of using a flash, because his story, where he got badly injured during the war, was to do with a bomb going off underneath his feet. And I was thinking, my God, if I use a flash, what's going to happen? Is he going to react? Could this really affect him? And then I get my picture and I leave this very elderly 99-year-old man in a state of distress. I couldn't do it. But so I kind of thank that, you know, I did kind of spend more time talking and more time listening and talking in that order than I did taking the photographs. Massively important. It really was. And that, I think, has contributed to so many times when people have received the portraits that I did, those veterans, not just the veterans themselves, but their family members, you could just see it's like, oh my God, that is so them. That is the ultimate compliment when somebody says, you take a portrait, that is so them. Do you know what I mean? Rather than, oh, it's nice composition, it's sharp, look at the colors. Couldn't care less about that. If somebody says that is so them, it does not get, in my book, it does not get better than that.
No.
And that would not happen unless you spent time talking to them. So like you said, you know, you've posed them. I haven't really. I would get them to say, take a seat on there for, get yourself comfortable. Right. And we had just chat. And eventually, actually, Jack, just hold that for a second for me. Bump. And it's all to do with the voice, how you kind of like, there's a thing called, that I used to teach, called Batari's box. It's all to do with, your behavior and attitude. So it says my attitude affects my behavior, which affects your attitude, affects your behavior. And it's an ever increasing thing. You teach it in a lot of conflict management. So even if there were times I'd be panicking sometimes in the early part of the project when things weren't working right. And I know that if I showed that, it would reflect onto them and I wouldn't get it. So I had to learn very quickly to be the duck on the water, nice and calm. Everything's good underneath, thinking shit. But just never, ever show it. Never show it. I learned so much doing those portraits because they were in the field. You know what I mean? They were. It wasn't in sterile studio environment where everything was comfortable. I remember photographing, and I apologize, I go off on tangents, but I remember photographing this Tom Schaefer, wonderful guy. He lived in London. Lovely man. I mean, if ever you look through the portraits, you'll know him instantly. He's the guy that had the big, silver moustache and the beret. Oh, just what a face. But when I was taking his portrait, because I'd chosen the look, when I was doing these portraits, the look that I liked was from a 55mm lens. It just seemed to give the right kind of look that I wanted for the seated positions. But his flat that he lived in, his house rather, was really small. So I'm putting the camera on the tripod so that I can maintain eye contact and not do all this kind of stuff. But I had to actually push the tripod and the camera against the wall. The back of the camera was right up against the wall. I couldn't even see what was in frame. I knew it was pointing towards him. And I'd press the shot and I'd see it coming through on the laptop. And I had to trust the camera to nail the focus on the eyes. And it did. So, you trust your kit, because kit nowadays, regardless of brands, is all very good, especially all the focus and stuff like that. But my God, some of the things I learned, you know what I mean? It was the best learning ground ever. But I'm very protective of that project, those people. I mean, every single one, bar one, of the veterans that you've shown so far, none aren't with us.
Oh,
you know what I mean? But there was I remember there was a guy who was going to he contacted me from America. He wanted to do the similar kind of thing. He said, would I mind? I said, of course not. I can't create a hologram that can go off and go to other countries and do the same thing as much as I'd love to. But he asked me how I did it and all this kind of stuff. And off he went and he started doing his stuff. And I started to see him posting portraits of American veterans that he was posting. I was thinking, great. And then when I looked closer, and he was posting them particularly on Instagram, I noticed that underneath in the description part, whereas I would put, you know, this is Tom Schaefer, former Royal Marine, blah, 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 blah. And I'd say a little bit about him, where he served and stuff like that. And that'd be it. But when I noticed this particular chap was doing his posts on Instagram, he would put down their name if they were lucky, and then about 5 lines of hashtags. Hashtag Canon, hashtag photographer, hashtag hire me, hashtag photographer for sale, hashtag going on and on and on. And you know what? It really, because I say I'm very protective about these people.
Yeah.
It really gripped me. I was so angry about it.
Yeah.
It just so happened that I was invited to speak at an event in the States. And at the event in the States, there was an evening, and it was where people would pay. There was 400 people out of all the attendees there would pay extra to come to this one particular evening. And it was an evening with, and the evening with was with me. I was really, honored to be there. It was me. Joe McNally was another.
Oh, yeah.
And Aaron Blaze, who worked at Disney. He was another. So it was the 3 of us. So Joe does his bit, Aaron does his bit, then I do my bit, and I'm talking about the project and stuff like that, because that's what they wanted me to talk about. And then I went in and I knew this guy. The reason I tell you this is because the guy who was doing the American version was in the audience, and I knew it. I knew it was. And I went into a story about, you've got to do this for the right reason. Don't think, people aren't stupid. If you're going to take their portrait because you're telling them it's because you feel that, you want to do this, it's something that you feel is the right thing to do. Don't try and do that in a way that you're thinking they're stupid, when really in your mind you're thinking, oh, this will be good for me. I'll be able to get loads of publicity from this, because people aren't stupid.
No.
But I just went for it. I said, oh, there's a guy I know who's doing a similar thing. He's a Sony shooter. This guy was a Canon shooter. So I was trying to be a bit of deflection. And I said, I told the story about what he was doing with all the hashtags. And then I just kind of pointed into the audience and says, don't you ever treat that person in front of you like they're an idiot. They're not, especially these veterans, they're not there for your benefit. But he never contacted me again. In fact, he unfollowed me, never contacted me again. So I thought, good.
He knew you were talking about him.
He must have been stupid if he didn't know that. But it really got me. It really got me, because, like I said, it was such an emotional journey for me. And even in now, if I look at pictures, especially of people like David Edwards, Alan Scott, Jim Hooper, who you showed earlier, if I see those, I'm like, I got so close to that, especially Alan. He was like a granddad. He was just, we were so close, really close.
But that's when it comes back to me saying they're immortalized. They're not here any longer, but they are, because you've captured them in that moment. You've got them in that moment. And that's, that again, it's what I was kind of getting at. It's a testament to, I know we've had a bit backwards and forwards here about whether it's art or not, but it absolutely is, because those portraits, without question, they are very artistic. They're not, and that for me, that's you. Unquestionably, I don't care who argues with me or tells me anything different. You are an artist because of how much you put into creating what your vision is, and that's what they are. That's your vision. You've looked at that and thought, I want to do this. I think you did have an exhibition of them, didn't you? For veterans,
it was ran for 3 months at the Soldiers of Oxfordshire Museum. And that's when
which is
BBC
fantastic. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. That's a total testament to what you've achieved in those. And as you say, you don't know that you'll be able to top that. Not from the portraits themselves, but more for what that's given you.
Absolutely.
The time you've done it. So, what's next then? Because you've done that.
I've done that, and projects is my thing, isn't it? And me and Steve were talking about this the other night, or the other morning when we were out together. My next thing that I'm working on is a project called I Am Lime. As in Lyme Regis. I am Lyme. Now, the I is a little I with a dot. And the reason for that is because there's going to be a exhibition for this as well in March 26 in Lyme, in the Jubilee Pavilion. And it's going to be an exhibition of all my seascapes and whatever that I take at Lyme.
Mm-hmm.
Also portraits I'll be taking at Lyme as well. And they're going to be portraits of the fishermen, the swimmers, the rowers, you know, the fishmonger, the sort of cafe owners, the people who make lime. And the reason it's got the small I is because every single picture is being done with the iPhone. So it's an exhibition of all that. I am Lyme.
All you're doing now is you're just reinforcing my case that you're an artist. You've come up with this idea, and you are going to put Lyme. You're going to put Lyme Regis on the map with what you're doing. You're all those things you're doing of those people. It's a vision you've had for a project. The fact that you're doing it with an iPhone is immaterial.
That's the challenge. That's the challenge.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, but you could be doing it with a canvas and paints if you were that type of artist.
Yeah.
You're not. You're an artist who uses a camera, same as me, as a tool to create the picture that you want to create.
And I want to show it's doable. And
so I want this. I don't want to see Glyn Dewis, photographer, educator. I also want to see in that line artist. I want to see artists sitting in that line.
You might be waiting a long time.
I do. And I seriously, I do believe that. Let's. I don't. It's. So look. This is a nice comment. Glyn Dewis says unconditional love, sharing all his knowledge every day. He's a hard worker. God bless you for inspiring all of us. Thank you. And it absolutely. It is absolutely true, and I think you know what a great comment. Before we wrap this up, and I'm definitely make sure that everybody understands that's what your plan is. We'll all be coming down to the exhibition, and to see this amazing artist with his work.
You're relentless, aren't you?
Yeah, well, because it's true. That's why. But look, here's if you don't know, and you might not know, but that's first mistake I've made tonight, isn't it?
So you don't tell them that though. That was planned.
Yeah, no, it wasn't planned. It's a cock up. I tried to get rid of that little button there. It says hi. Press the wrong bit. So this is for those of you that don't know. This is Glyn's fantastic website. Loads and loads of stuff is on there. Some of the stuff, I mean, this one, making portraits pop. Wow, you did that one a long time. In fact, one of the tutorials I came to with you was how to light the cigar. Yeah. And in fact, I ended up using that technique in one of my pictures. Which
can do it different now in Lightroom now, mate.
I know that's now Lightroom is now your thing. You're going to take a bit to pull me away from Photoshop. I don't look.
I'm not trying to, but I'm just saying it's just like I love finding out new stuff. I'm always thinking, how would I do that? Do you know what I mean? I've never lost that. How would I do that kind of attitude? And I've just found a way of doing it in Lightroom. I love it.
Steve Healy's just put this.
The artist formerly.
Yeah, I know. And but it's the point, I think, is that also, you know, look, you do all this stuff and you try new things, and that's what makes you so special for people, is that you actually you're always trying something and you then share it. You don't hide it. You don't keep it for yourself. You will see on here, you'll see all the stuff about the 39, 49, 45 project, all the stuff on here. Go to Glyn's website and have a read of these. That portrait you were talking about is this the guy here?
There's Tom. There he is. Yeah. Look at him. What a face.
Look at that.
What a face.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, lovely fella.
Yeah, fantastic image. And that's there's so much on here, so much on your Facebook page. You are at Glyn Dewis pretty much everywhere, aren't you? That's
Yeah,
your
kept it simple.
handle. Kept it simple. Yeah, which we'll bring up here again so people can check that out. But one thing that you don't do anymore is the tutorials. You know, your
Workshops?
workshops. Sorry, I meant
Mm.
workshops. You don't do anymore. Which, speaking from personally, and also probably from Steve Healy as well, is because that's where I met him. Is a shame, because it's great watching a tutorial, great doing stuff, but actually been able to spend time at that time for me was the bit that pushed me in the direction I went. And thank God, yeah, I understand, and everybody understands why you don't do them anymore. However, at that time for me, that was the spark that kicked me off into doing, all that I do. This is not a full-time job for me, and I would struggle for it to be, because it's just.
Do you know the reason why I don't do them?
No. I just thought that you became seriously busy with everything. And
No. There's always time you can fit in stuff, but the reason I stopped doing them was because no matter how much I qualified or tried to qualify people that came along to a workshop, so that you would have an idea of what their level was, their understanding of, let's say, if it was Photoshop or if it was a photography one. No matter how hard I tried to qualify people, it's very, very difficult. So I'd say, like, rather, you could never say, are you beginner, intermediate, or advanced? Because, well, what's the difference between being intermediate and advanced? What is that? Yeah. So you'd kind of get people to send maybe pictures over. I'd kind of go, right, okay, so they seem to know roughly what they're doing. But even that wasn't a foolproof way of doing it. And what didn't sit pretty with me was that if you had a group of people there, you would always have somebody that got lost because they didn't quite grasp it. Or you'd always have somebody that kind of knew a lot and they didn't feel that they were getting their money's worth, even though they didn't say that. And that didn't sit well with me, because it was really important to me that everybody got something for it. And there was also, back then, when the way I was doing them, there was never time to be able to give people feedback and critique. So, like, you'd come along, let's say, for example, the one that you came along to, I'm showing you what to do on the computer, you kind of mimic it, you do your bit, and I'd walk around maybe and whatever, and then we'd finish and that'd be it. What I would really have liked to have been able to do was to then, right, everyone's finished, down tools, give me what you've got, let's get it up on the screen now. You guys sit comfortable and let's go through each person's. Right, Gary, I love the way that you've taken that portrait there. Notice that bit of light there. What you could have done is this. Right, let me just quickly show you, everybody, what I mean. Boom, do that. You could spend a whole day doing that. But I think the value of that kind of feedback would be priceless. But it was trying to fit it all in.
Yeah, sometimes I get people when I'm doing a talk, and my second one's normally a 2-hour Photoshop talk, just showing people what I do. People say to me, why are you showing us all? What are you giving all your secrets away for? And I said, well, you wouldn't expect a carpenter to come in and fit a bit of skirting if someone hasn't taught him how to do it. You won't be able to do what I do because you haven't got my brain. You got to be. Most people think I'm smoking something dodgy. So to be fair, you're not going to do what I do, but this will give you the techniques that you can try. And somebody, the thing I go on about a lot is somebody brought in on a memory stick a picture that I've been creating. It was a sea monster. It was they downloaded the pictures, didn't take them. Sea monster coming out of the sea in this sort of bay. And he said, I don't know what's wrong with it. And I went, well, I've just stood up here and explained to everybody you have to understand the physiology of what you're putting together. So why have you got waves going backwards? The waves are crashing on the front of him. That's not what happens. That's why it doesn't look right. You got to understand when you start putting, you know how many layers I put together. So you've got to understand how all those elements work with each other, that if you were standing there looking at that, it would be right. And the you're right, you need that feedback that you're talking about there. And if you did do that, the day would go on forever, wouldn't it?
But it'd be
Because
so good to be able to do it,
it would,
even
yeah,
if it was like a 2-dayer to
yeah,
do
yeah,
that. But also, I think when I was doing this as well, lots of people started to do workshops, and it just started to feel a bit dirty. You know what I mean? It
mm,
felt like it was, how can I explain it? It's like when somebody, Pi, the guy I spoke to the other night, is an exception to the rule. But
mm,
what it seemed to me was when people were and again, sweeping statement, when people were looking to get into business and become photographers, the first thing they wanted to do was, I'm going to do some weddings. That'll be a great way of getting some money in, blah, 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 blah. And that used to really want, I think that is one of the most important and expensive days of somebody's life.
yeah,
And you're going to treat it as a way of
yeah,
practicing and making money.
yeah,
So that's what used to wind me up. But then it seemed to move away from people doing weddings to then people who were new started to do workshops. It's like, really? You're doing them
mm,
already?
mm,
Do you know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah,
no, it just feels dirty. It feels wrong. So I
yeah,
wanted to kind of disassociate myself with it. And yeah, I mean, in the future, never say never at all. But I love the online kind of things as well, because I make myself extremely accessible. And I always say to people, if you need to, there's a guy, in fact, he's messaged me tonight. He messaged me the other night saying, I'm having a real nightmare with color calibration, Glyn. Can I pay you to kind of get it sorted out? I said, listen, I'm happy to jump on a quick Zoom with you first of all. Let's have a quick chat first of all. Let me know what the problem is. And he's like,
mm,
seriously, you'd do that? Yeah.
yeah,
Because if it ends up being more than that, I want you to know that you're going to leave with a good taste in your mouth, and you're not thinking
yeah,
that bloke fleeced me.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's just really
yeah,
important. I'm in this. My attitude has always been, Gary, I'm in this for the long term.
yeah,
We all see people come and go. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
There's people
yeah,
come and
yeah,
go when there's bad times, and all of a sudden people who are active in certain parts of the year, like there's functions starting to come up now in this part of the year. You know, we've got the photography show is going to be coming in March. I guarantee you there will be some folks we've not seen for months will suddenly become active, and then they'll disappear again until the next big function comes at the end of the year. It always happens.
mm,
But I don't think you can do that. I think if you've put yourself in a position where you've developed a bit of a following and people kind of start to rely on you, you've got a responsibility to
yeah,
set an example of, I'm out there and doing this. Just so you know, I'm not a good time guy. I'm kind of like, I'll ride the storm. I'm there. I'm always there, kind of thing. You can see that. And when you're ready, you can come and jump back on again. Not somebody who
right.
just goes and comes back and goes and comes back.
Okay, so as an artist, and all the people that are artists, it is vitally important that you say do the same exhibition every year, or you do the same thing. You've got a presence, because people won't buy your work if
Mm,
they think you ain't going to be around next week. So and actually you have to build up. You have to build that up. You might do 4 or 5 exhibitions and not sell a thing, but all those people are seeing you there, and then they start to become trusting that you're not going to run away. And also the other thing that I say a lot, actually, and Lee Churchill, actually, he watches every week, so he'll know that what I'm going to say, I've said a few times, is a lot of the artists who paint do an oil painting and that's it, gone, finished. And I'll say to them, why have you not made prints of that? Because if you're sending a picture for 2.5 grand, let's say, for argument's sake, and that person's bought it, what about all the people who couldn't afford it, who would
mm,
have loved to have had it on their wall?
mm.
And that is PR for you. They've got that picture on the wall. It might have only cost them 80 quid or 90, whatever it is. How many people are going to see it and go, God, I love that. Who's
Yeah,
that?
it doesn't devalue the original, does it?
No, it doesn't, because
If
it's a
anything,
print.
it promotes it. Yeah.
It's promoting it. And then
Mm,
what that then does is it gives you more people
mm,
that know your work. It's really, it's sometimes I get very frustrated that in fact the worst one I had was it was, I think it was a Truman Gallery. I did an exhibition there, and a guy was just literally standing there. And in fact, at one point, he started reading the paper, another artist. And I went up to him, I said, you not talking to people? He said, well, I can see you are. I went, well, yeah, I am. Well, I don't stop talking, so I was fine. So I said to him, but why are you not? He went, I like my art to do the talking. Well, it doesn't.
Get over
And people buy into you, you know. And
of course they do, yeah.
And the other thing about what you do, especially with your YouTube channel in particular, you're so relentless with it that other people who have got YouTube channels will struggle to keep up with you, because you've got every week there's something new coming on. You've got this, you've tried, you know, I've tried it. Oh, tried this out. It's a little bit like in my day job where I go and see people who've got new products for all the big developers that we work with. And we review them and say to our customers, look, you really want to give this a try because I've been and seen it, and actually it does what they say, etc. You do need people like that in business to actually give advice. And yeah, right, what's advice? It doesn't cost you anything, does it, to give people a bit of advice? And that's you've got such a following, which I know it's taken you a bloody long time. But that's testament to the fact that A, how hard you work, and also B, how much people love what you do. And we've only seen it tonight. You know, there's people in the chat tonight, probably more comments than I've ever had actually on any of these on any of these interviews. But
are they clean?
Yeah, they are clean. Yeah, there's been some great ones. I mean, that from Steve Healy was very funny, but also, you know, he's actually said the only reason he came to your workshops anyway was for the curry afterwards.
He's too honest, isn't he? He's too honest.
Yeah, but also that was a part of it, though.
It was the social side of it. Yeah,
the one I came to, in Oxford, not the one I brought up earlier, but the one I came to, said, right, we're all going for a pizza now. Anne was there actually, and I was talking to her for ages as we were walking to the restaurant. Right, we're all going for a pizza now, and also, his name's gone out of my head. Scottish guy who's big time. It'll come to me. We all went for a pizza afterwards and actually learnt just as much talking to all the other people.
Yeah.
You know, it almost became a little community in its own right, the people that attended those first 5 or 6 workshops I came to, because we all went. You know, that's what I was saying about Steve, where I met him, you know, in the car park.
Massively important, all that. It really is.
Because you build up that relationship with people, which has been amazing. Look, hour and 26 minutes, gone like no Billio. And I know what you're, I know you say it on your own show. So anybody watching who's not usually watching Glyn on his YouTube channel every Sunday night. Next one's the 9th of February. Every Sunday night at 7 p.m. he does exactly this. And if you're thinking I've copied him, I had the idea for this a couple of years ago, but when Glyn interviewed me last February on his show, Lisa, who is Flux, Lisa is big time Flux, turned around to me and said, Gary, that show you keep wanting me to do, you've got to do it because of how we got on. And as I said, this is number 27 for me now. It's been brilliant. Every single time I do one, I learn something, and I've absolutely loved this.
Me too, mate.
And also, I was genuinely nervous about interviewing you because you are my god. There's no question.
It's lovely. It's lovely for you to say. It really is. I mean, it just is. Do you know what I mean? I remember years and years and years ago when Scott Kelby, again, is one of the people that a lot of people see this figure, Scott Kelby, but there's way more to him. I mean, there's really way more to him. And I know Scott very, very well. And I remember him sitting with me the one time and just give me advice from the very early days, so that he saw me doing the right things and stuff like that. Because he could see when people were coming up to me at events and they were going, "Oh, I love what you do." I'd be like, "Oh, like that." And he'd go, "Glyn, come here, let's have a chat." I said, "Don't do that. Don't do that." He says, "This is the way you should do it." He said, "No matter how uncomfortable you might feel when people say that," he says, "just take it."
Yes, right.
He says, "Because if you say, oh, I'm not, oh, no, I'm not like," he said, in a way, you're telling them that their opinion is the wrong opinion.
Yeah.
And their taste is, and that's wrong. He said, "Just go, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much."
It's like the artist who, when he's about to, sell a picture, turns around to the buyer and says, "Cool, that was lucky. I was going to throw that out." What the hell? Yeah, and I've heard somebody say that. What are you doing?
No,
it is that kind of thing. There was one other question that I didn't ask you, which is, how did you feel doing your very first Adobe in America, Adobe Max or whatever it's called at the time? How did you feel, A, being invited to do it, and B, then going over and presenting after being there? You'd been there before as I'm going to go to this.
No, I've done the events in the States. Obviously, there was several events I've done over in the States, including the ones with Knapp and Kelby.
Yeah.
I remember doing an event. I remember speaking once at the Kelby. I think there was like 4,000 in the audience, and I was asked to do a closing speech in front of the 4,000. And that was amazing. RC Concepcion took an amazing photograph from behind, and I was on the stage. You just see this sea of people. That was amazing. That was a proper roller coaster, because up until that point, I'd been kind of seen as a bit of a guy who did what he did, but he was a happy-go-lucky, a bit funny, always joking about. But that was the first time I let my guard down, and I really let people know some quite personal things, and really, really personal things, about childhood and what had happened and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'll never forget. Again, I'm going off on a tangent, Gary. I'm sorry, but I remember being on the stage, and on the front row there was all my peers, the people I'd, literally like, "Oh my God, you guys have no idea how much you've helped me." So there's people like Dave Black, there's Joe McNally, there's Joel Grimes, Scott, Terry White, all these people there. And I remember I was telling this one story, and it was all to do with what happened and how parents didn't really, didn't want to know. My dad didn't want to know. And when I was 15, I ended up being kicked out, lived in a caravan in a field for a year, and then moved to all that kind of stuff that kind of went on, And there was a song years, that came out by a group called The Script. And the wording in that song, my God, did that get me? Because I always felt like I had to prove something. I'm going to show you. And I remember for years growing up, I had this thing that one thing I'm going to do one day, I'm going to show them I'll make something of myself. And I will pay for a 2-page spread in the local paper back home. Local boy does good. And it'll show them what I've done. And there was all these things that but then eventually there were some good things that happened. Some really, really nice big things that have happened. And my wife eventually said, "You don't need to do that. No. You just don't need to." But I remember the song, the wording was the thing that really gripped me and motivated me. I'm on the stage and I played part of the song, and the song, I'm trying to remember it now, but the words went, "Take that rage, put it on a page, take the page to the stage and blow the roof off the place." And that's what I thought. That's the way my attitude was. And I remember when I said that, I remember seeing Dave Black and Joe McNally. Dave Black stood up and went, "That boy, go for it, boy." And I was like, whoa. Yeah. And when I came off stage afterwards, I remember Bert Monroy, and Bert Monroy to me was a god. And I am so grateful now that Bert's become a really good friend. I mean, I spent some time with him in America recently. He's at his home.
That interview you did with him, that was amazing.
Oh, he's just such a sweet man. He really is. Yeah. But I remember Bert Monroy started walking towards me. And Dave was with me at the time, Dave Clayton. I said, and I'd never spoken to Bert until that point. I was like, shit, Bert Monroy's coming over, Dave. And he went, bloody hell. And Bert's come right to me. I can feel myself going a bit now. And he said, "You have no idea what you've done." And he just put his arms around me, give me a hug. And when it gets to the point when someone's hugging you that you kind of think, that's long enough. We need to break now. Yeah. He didn't break. And then eventually I can feel his shoulders shrugging, and he's crying.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
we then we went into the bar afterwards in Scott's suite. He had like a bar, and he was telling me that, you know, his childhood, blah, blah, and it just made him think of that. And I was like, wow. So that was really powerful. But again, I'm going all over the place. But the Adobe Max thing, that was the first time I was invited to speak at Adobe Max in Los Angeles. I mean, there's thousands. I mean, it's massive, massive event. God, that was just incredible, absolutely incredible. And I just went out there, did my thing. I wasn't nervous, apprehensive, because I've always got this. Like I said, you're only as good as your last job. So when I went out there, and I am somebody who rehearses again and again and again and again. I just don't leave anything to chance. When I go out there, I know I can cover all of this. So if anything goes wrong with the technicals, I can deal with that. It's not going to fluster me because I know what else I'm doing. That's fine. But yeah, it was just the most amazing experience. No, I just, you know, I was very, very fortunate that for that particular event, my first event, I got voted Max Master, which is like where the people in the audience, it's a very different event there. When they go to attend a session, they vote live during the session. They rate you. And at the end of the whole, I know. And at the end of the function, you get to see what score you got and all this kind of stuff. And then at the end of the whole thing, Adobe then tally them all up and say, right, who were the top scoring out of all the events that have gone on over these few days? And I was one of the Max Masters, and that was just like, wow.
Blimey. Yeah, that's kind of, that's the sort of thing that you can't put a price on. And that, you know, I've said it before, but how I feel when I'm, you know, I do a 2-hour talk, it's like you're doing a one-man show. It's like a performance. And, you know, a comedian will be up on stage. He doesn't see the people that's laughing. He sees the people sitting there with their arms folded and a miserable face. And he is seeing them thinking, what am I doing wrong? Never mind the thousands that are laughing. And I find that, you know, sometimes you're standing talking in front of people and you do think, you know, I recently went over to Belfast. You interviewed the guy from the Catchlight Camera Club, the portrait artist. You interviewed me, but from my interview with you, they invited me over to speak to them.
I remember seeing pictures of you there when you were there.
Yeah, and it was great, but they were dead quiet, and I was thinking, this ain't going well. but afterwards,
worst thing you can do is try and second guess what they're thinking.
I couldn't. It was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed myself going over it. Anyway, look,
I was telling Steve the other day, I had the local tourist board in Visit Lyme Regis. They posted my picture that I'd taken of that sunset that I told you I took.
Yeah.
And when they posted it, my wife Anne came and told me, she goes, "Here, look at this on social media," and it says, "Beautiful sunset in Lyme Regis, taken by the one and only Glyn Dewis." Now that's not me going, yeah. I was like, oh wow, they know who I am. I was like, whoa, and that to me was as big as anything else that's happened in my career so far. The local tourist board know who I am.
Well, I genuinely don't think that there's anybody that I've mentioned your name to who doesn't know who you are, and that I think that's remarkable, actually. Especially, you know, look, Flux exhibition, 80 artists. I could go around all of them and just mention your name. They would all know who you are. And and I'm not just making that up. That's genuinely true.
Wow.
And I think that it's because you've got that name, and it comes back to you ain't ever going to convince me. And I told you I want to see bloody artist in that little sign off.
Don't hold your breath.
No, but you are. Right, Glyn, thanks so much for coming on here. You've absolutely made
Thank you very much for inviting me.
I was very nervous about interviewing, as I've said before, but I think this has been great. And I'm sure everybody, thanks so much everybody for watching and all your comments in the chat too. And it's been absolutely look, Steve, people keep coming up to you in Lyme, so you know, you're obviously it's getting to the local here. There'll be a film next. Glyn the artist lives in Lyme Regis. So I'll just sign off. Don't stay in the green room. Don't leg it for a minute. And As I said, thanks so much for coming on. It's been absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you to everybody as well
Absolute pleasure.
Commenting.
Yeah, brilliant. And well, there you go. Lee loved it too. Yeah, thanks, Lee. All right, catch you in a sec.
Will do.
So if I remember how to turn this off now that I'm doing all that.
Get us.
Yeah, didn't just turn him off, I cut him off completely. Thanks very much, everybody that's been in the chat, everybody that's watched. Just a little bit of a reminder, and that is that a couple of things were that Fresh Alexander Palace this weekend, Katerina Diaz is there, and also in March to April in London, Michelle Watson has got a solo exhibition. But from me, this is thank you very much for watching, and I will absolutely catch you next time.